What's up, everybody? Richard Janvrin here from WSN.com, and today we got 5 picks for you for this upcoming weekend slate of games here in the NFL, week number 3. Now, as you'll see here on the screen, I got pulled up an article that I put out for a best parlay, and those picks we're going to talk about here today. If you want to go ahead and parlay those, that works as well, but there are also 3 of the 5 best bets that I have for you here today. So, first of all, I want to make sure that you guys know that whatever sportsbook we're talking about here, we have an affiliate link down in the description below where you can go, sign up, and redeem some nice bonuses, assuming that the sportsbook is in your state, of course. But with that, let's dive in. As you can see by the cover photo here of the article, we got Baker Mayfield, which means we're talking about the Panthers and Saints, but we'll get to that in a little bit. That one's a doozy. First of all, though, I want to touch on the Colts and the Chiefs. Now, this one here, I was a little bit conflicted with because when you see the Chiefs minus 6.5 against the Colts, who have been just atrocious this year, you're kind of like, oh yeah, easy. But whenever I have a bet like that, I always get nervous because like, what am I missing here? I still went with the Chiefs minus 6.5, minus 110 odds over at DraftKings. This is a parlay, by the way, so these are all going to be over at DraftKings, these 3 bets here, but this one made me a little bit nervous because I feel like the Colts are this team that, they don't have that typical MO of a team like, oh, well, they get down, they're going to have to throw to get back into it. No, they don't really do that. As you saw in week 1, they were down 17. They just peppered the ball to Jonathan Taylor more out of the backfield. The guy had like 30 carries. So I feel like they're this team that can kind of hang around a little bit. Obviously, they were terrible last week. Matt Ryan was awful with 3 interceptions. Could that happen again this week? It could, but I feel like this is the week for them to really establish the run early because the Chiefs have some guys, to kind of defend the run. They have, Chris Jones up the middle there who's kind of a force to be reckoned with. But you can kind of run on the Chiefs a little bit. You can kind of run on them a little bit. I feel like Jonathan Taylor is the guy to exploit any kind of weaknesses that a team has. So this could be close, but I ultimately went with the 6.5. If it gets to the 7, I think that you should probably lean Chiefs. Lean Colts rather. But for right now, I'm going to lean the Chiefs because I feel like they're going up against the Colts here, who have a defense that I think is really designed very well to stop the run. They have a lot of great players like E.J. Speed, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye. These guys are pretty good in run defense. I think, Kwity Paye and DeForest Buckner are a little bit better, rushing the passer. But they have some guys to stop the run. But the thing is, the Chiefs don't really run the ball that much. They just don't with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco, and Jarrett McKinnon. There's nobody on this Colts team, when you look up and down the coverage unit, there's nobody that can cover Travis Kelce. I don't think anybody can cover Travis Kelce, really, but especially here on the Colts. I don't see it. I feel like, they do have Stephon Gilmore, who's going to probably be matched up against Marquez Valdes-Scantling, which, honestly, who cares? He's kind of a non-factor anyway. But I feel like, if anybody can make an offense gel and work and score points, it's Patrick Mahomes, because this is a team scored 44 in week 1, 27 in week 2. I think that the 27 is probably a much better number to kind of associate with this game because 44 is just a lot of points, but the 27 here against the Colts, I think that the Chiefs could very well reach that. The Chargers have a better defense than the Colts, so I lean the Chiefs here at minus 6.5, minus 110 over at DraftKings. But I won't lie to you, I don't feel great about it. I feel pretty good about it. I recommended it in an article here, so I'm saying that you probably should go bet it. But if it gets to that 7. Definitely think twice because, like I said, I think the Colts are kind of built to maybe keep it a little bit closer than we would like, despite how bad they have been as of late. All right, and now we're looking at the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. I know we have DraftKings there, but, I did some looking around. I want to make sure you guys get as much value as you possibly can. So there are also 40.5 minus 110 over at FanDuel. So you can head over there as well and check this same line out. Listen, I know that if you watch my video earlier in the week talking about the Browns and Steelers 38.5, I was like, this is just too low. I feel like this is the kind of game, it is 40.5, 2 points more, but like, I just don't see these teams scoring. Like, I mean, there's just not a lot to work with here. Like, let's start with the Panthers. Baker Mayfield has been terrible. I mean, he just flat out has not been good. The guy just, he doesn't push the ball downfield. 7.3 average depth of target when he has DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Just hasn't been good. Like, he can't make anything happen. So I just don't have any confidence with him, passing the ball in this one. You can only rely on Christian McCaffrey so much. He'll also have to go up against Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, who should be covering probably, I'm going to guess, DJ Moore the majority of this game, and also safety Tyrann Mathieu. So the Saints defense, in addition to just the coverage unit, the pass rush is going to be fine, I think. They haven't been as good as you'd like them to, that we've seen in years past, but I feel like, with the two tackles kind of being the weakest spot on this Panthers offensive line, I feel like those Saints could really do some damage here. For me, I wrote in the article here, 10 to 13 points is kind of where I'm at in the Panthers in this one. I really feel like this is going to be a rude awakening, even more so for Baker Mayfield. I mean, they scored, 16 against the Giants? I don't see how they're going to score some points here. But for the Saints, to be fair, we don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to be in this game, but Jameis is kind of, I don't want to say the antithesis of Baker Mayfield, but he's a guy who he does throw the ball downfield. He's not afraid to. The problem, though, is that he just makes mistakes. Like, he's kept clean, I believe. What did I write here? It was like 68.7% of his plays or something like that. Actually, I don't know if I actually wrote that down, but I do remember seeing that. He's kept clean a lot. He doesn't really get touched that often by opposing defenders, but he still just creates issues. Like, all three of his interceptions from last week against the Buccaneers, they didn't come while he's running away from Shaq Barrett and trying to get out of the way. He just throws them. Like, I don't know why, he just does. But he does throw the ball downfield, which can pay dividends. We saw him, when he was with the Buccaneers all those years ago, he threw 30 interceptions, but he had, 30 touchdowns or whatever. So it's kind of a little bit of high risk, high reward, but I feel like, this Panthers defense definitely has some guys that can take advantage of that. I look at one matchup that I wrote about here was Panthers cornerback Miles Hartsfield, who is the slot corner. He'll be covering Jarvis Landry. I feel like, Michael Thomas probably has a good matchup against J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson. But I don't know, man. I could see very well this being like a 17-13, 20-17, 20-13 kind of game. And I don't see this going over the 40.5. So we're going to take the under 40.5, minus 110 over at FanDuel. And now moving on here, we got the Broncos and 49ers. Niners are minus 1.5. We got minus 105 over at DraftKings, but it's also minus 110 over at Caesars. You lose a little bit of juice there, but still, we're taking the 49ers minus 1.5 here. Just like, we talked about with Jameis Winston and Baker Mayfield, obviously Russell Wilson is definitely a lot more pedigree than those two guys, but he hasn't really been that great all this season either. But, of course, the headline in this one before we talk about them is Trey Lance being out for the entire year, with Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting now. What's going to be interesting here is the trench battle, right? You're going to have these offensive lines and these defensive lines going at it. I feel like the 49ers have some good tackles in Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey, but the Broncos have some good pass rushers in Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory. And then for the Broncos, you have Cam Fleming and Garrett Bowles going up against Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam. So those are going to be some good matchups there. The 49ers defense is just smothering. Of course, they played the Seahawks last week and only gave up 7. The Seahawks beat the Broncos, so that's something to think about there. And then, they did allow 19 points to Chicago in week 1, but the weather was so crazy there that I don't really consider that when I'm kind of analyzing because that's kind of an outlier of a game. But yeah, as I wrote here, Wilson, he's having trouble completing passes downfield and I'll just read it word for word what I wrote here. Through the first two games, 17.8% of Wilson's attempts have come on throws of 20-plus yards, and he's only completing 38.5% of those throws. None of those passes were dropped. So he's having trouble completing passes downfield. He's got some good weapons to throw to downfield, with Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, and then the likes of that. So it's just it just isn't gelling yet. I feel like this offense is still, kind of coming together, and I think that they will eventually, but I'm not banking on it week 3 against the San Francisco 49ers, so I think the San Francisco 49ers go into Mile High and steal one here, taking the -1.5, either -105 at DraftKings or -110 at Caesars, whatever one you want to go with there. And next up, we're looking at the over-under here at the Atlanta Falcons. They're at the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to go with the over 41.5 -108 over at FanDuel. 41.5 here. I think this one goes over. I think that, the Seahawks have kind of shown that they're not really all that great offensively, but I feel like against the Falcons that are very, leaky on defense, I feel like, a combination of either DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett or, some combination. Geno Smith's going to find him eventually. I mean, it's just got to happen, and I feel like the Falcons is a great opportunity for that to get started. But for the Falcons, these guys could score some points. I mean, like we saw against the Rams last week, they ended up with 27. Of course, 2 of those is from a safety, and, you get a block punt in there. But they have Drake London. They have Kyle Pitts. They have Marcus Mariota, who's a contender for 70 rushing yards and a touchdown every single week. I think there's going to be some points scored in this one. Like, I feel like this could be a kind of like a low-key shootout, like a 23-20, 27-23 kind of game. I feel like there could be some points scored in this one because neither defense is really that fantastic. I mean, there are some playmakers on the Seahawks, but I feel like the Falcons have enough weapons on offense to kind of make some things happen. And lastly, we're looking at the over here, 41.5 Green Bay Packers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's -110 over at BetMGM. This is very low. I mean, I get it, man. Like, I listen, I understand the Packers, there's really not that many weapons. They do have Allen Lazard back. They put up 27 against the Bears. They did not look great in week 1, but there's no Lazard. They're getting A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones much more involved. But the Buccaneers, I think, is kind of really the more concerning aspect of this in a way. There's really no receivers. I mean, Mike Evans is going to be suspended most likely for, getting into a little scuffle with Marshawn Lattimore last week. And so, I see the cause for concern here for an offensive output. But when it's Brady and Rodgers, at 41.5, I'm going to take the over. I feel like these are two guys who are going to find ways to get, some of these unknown receivers, the ball in their hands, make things happen. I feel like this is a great opportunity for Leonard Fournette to really kind of ramp things up here, start catching some more passes out of the backfield. And I feel like with the Packers, using A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones isn't necessarily a bad strategy in the passing game, but I also feel like Allen Lazard will get going more here. I know that both of these defenses are more than competent, but I really look at the quarterback play here, and I just have confidence in Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady to find and put up points in this one, especially if they're going toe-to-toe, trying to keep pace with each other. I feel like they're just going to find ways to make it happen. So we're going to go over 41.5 -110 over at BetMGM. So to run through them once again, we have the Kansas City Chiefs -6.5 -110 over at DraftKings. We have the over-under in the Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints showdown. I'm going to take the under at 40.5. That's -110 over at FanDuel. And then we're going to take the 49ers -1.5, -105 at DraftKings, -110 at Caesars. And then we're going to take the 41.5. We're going to take the over there at the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks, -108 at FanDuel. And lastly, we're going to take the over at 41.5 with the Green Bay Packers visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -110 at BetMGM. And that does it. Those are the 5 best bets you got to make this weekend. Like I said, again, a caveat, if that spread gets out to 7, if you're watching this and it gets closer to kickoff, and that spread on the Chiefs game gets out to 7, maybe lean the Colts there or just stay away. That's always fine, too, to just stay away. But those are the 5 best bets for this weekend. So I hope that you make some money this weekend. And let me know down in the comments below if you lost a bunch of money. And, if you're watching this, if you come back and visit this after, I want to know. But also just let me know what your best bets for this weekend are. I'm always looking for some new insights, and I really, really appreciate it. But anyways, make sure you like and subscribe. And until the next one, this is Richard Janvrin of WSN.com, and we'll see you later. Peace.